A polished hotel suite in Las Vegas. Late night. The city spreads out below like a circuit board of light and money. Inside, a man in a tailored suit sits alone at a desk, pouring 3 fingers of whiskey into a crystal glass. He doesn't drink it. He's reading. The document is 3 pages. Standard promotional contract language. The kind casinos distribute to thousands of customers every quarter. Marketing copy about bonuses and excitement and winning big. Most people would skim it, sign it, forget it. But Luke Morrow is not most people. He circles a clause in pencil. His fingertip traces a single sentence. He reads it again and again. His expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his posture. He leans back in his chair and stares at the ceiling for a long time. Below, the casino floor moves like a living thing. Dealers shuffle cards. Chips stack and fall. 1,000 small transactions flow through the room, each one following rules written by lawyers and approved by compliance teams and tested by mathematicians. The house always wins. The math is perfect. The system is unbreakable, except it isn't. The clause Luke is reading is simple and boring. A bonus provision for suited consecutive blackjacks triggered during promotional windows. To the marketing team, it was a selling line. Something to put in emails and flyers. Something to make players feel special. But to Luke, it's an equation. And in one quiet moment, he sees what no compliance team bothered to check. The promotion's wording, combined with dealer rules and shuffle patterns, creates a legal but repeatable edge. He didn't break the law. He read it. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to boost this story to more true crime fans. Luke Morrow was 43 years old when he discovered the loophole. Mid-40s, corporate litigation attorney with a practice calm and a taste for precision that bordered on obsession. He had the kind of face that looked trustworthy in courtrooms. Clean-shaven, good suits, a voice that never rose or fell too much. The voice of someone who had read every contract, every clause, every footnote. He'd built his career on being correct. Not brilliant, not charismatic, just relentlessly, methodically correct. He'd worked his way through law school at night while holding down a full-time job, graduated in the top 15%, took a position at a mid-sized firm specializing in corporate compliance. He wasn't the kind of lawyer who appeared on TV or argued landmark cases. He was the kind who sat in conference rooms and found the comma that could save a client $2 million. His apartment was neat, too neat. Stacked legal briefs covered the coffee table. Dinner was usually takeout, eaten at his desk while reviewing contracts. He lived alone. His marriage had ended 4 years earlier. His ex-wife, Sarah, had said he loved language more than people. She wasn't entirely wrong. A former colleague named Jennifer Watts remembers him well. Luke saw ambiguity as homework, she said in an interview. Give him a contract and he'd read it like a detective novel. He'd find the gaps, the loose wording, the places where the drafter got lazy or imprecise, and he'd exploit those gaps for his clients. That was his job. That was what made him good. But being good didn't make him rich. Luke had student loans. He had alimony payments. He had a brittle ego that equated correctness with worth. And when he was correct but still broke, it grated on him. He watched other lawyers, less careful lawyers, make partner while he stayed associate. He watched clients get rich from his advice while he invoiced by the hour. He believed the law was a puzzle, and he was very good at solving puzzles. In March of 2021, Luke was consulting on a small client's contract dispute. Nothing major. A fintech startup arguing over terms of service with a payment processor. The kind of case that paid the bills but wouldn't make anyone's career. As part of discovery, opposing counsel submitted a stack of sample contracts to demonstrate industry standards. Buried in the stack was a casino promotional agreement. Luke almost threw it away. It wasn't relevant to the case, but something about the language caught his eye. A clause about bonus payouts. He read it once. Then he read it again. Then he pulled out his laptop. The clause was buried on page 2 of a 3-page promotional document distributed by Desert Star Casino and Resort. Standard marketing language, approved by their legal team, printed on glossy paper with pictures of smiling winners and promises of excitement. Consecutive suited blackjacks during promotional period, paid at 2-to-1 with bonus multiplier. Bonus resets only after shoe clearance or promotional period end. whichever occurs first. Luke read this sentence 7 times. Most people would see nothing interesting. A casino offering slightly better odds during a promotion. Nothing unusual. Casinos run promotions all the time. But Luke's mind worked differently. He saw the words behind the words. He saw the gap between intention and execution. Consecutive suited blackjacks. That meant getting blackjack with cards of the same suit, then getting another one in the next hand. Rare but possible. The promotion paid double, plus a multiplier that increased with each consecutive win. But the key phrase was resets only after shoe clearance. In blackjack, a shoe is the container that holds multiple decks of cards. Dealers shuffle the decks, load the shoe, and deal until the shoe is mostly empty, then shuffle again. Shoe clearance means the end of all the cards in the shoe. What the marketing team meant was simple. If you get consecutive suited blackjacks during the promotion, you get bonuses. When the shoe runs out and the dealer shuffles, the bonus counter resets and you start over. But that's not what the contract said. The contract said the bonus resets only after shoe clearance, not after each hand, not after you lose, only when the physical shoe is cleared and reshuffled. Luke opened a spreadsheet. He started running calculations. In a standard 6-deck shoe, there are 312 cards. If you know the composition of the remaining cards, if you can count, if you time your bets correctly, the clause creates something that should never exist in a casino. A player edge. He worked through the night. He pulled up blackjack probability tables. He factored in dealer rules, hit on soft 17, split policies, double down conditions. He wrote a Monte Carlo simulation in Python, running millions of hands through different scenarios. At 4 a.m, Luke stared at his screen. The numbers were clear. Under the exact wording of the promotional clause, combined with optimal betting during favorable shoe compositions, the expected value swung positive. Not by much, maybe 1.3%. But in gambling, 1% is everything. 1% edge played consistently with proper bankroll management turns gambling into profit. Luke whispered to his empty apartment. That can't be right. He ran the simulation again. Same result. He checked his math. He looked for errors in his code. He questioned every assumption. The conclusion remained unchanged. The promotional clause, as written, was exploitable, and it was completely legal. Luke sat back in his chair and thought about this. He thought about his student loans, his alimony payments, his career that had plateaued, his life that felt smaller every year. He thought about being correct his entire life and having so little to show for it. Then he thought about what he could do with this information. Luke Morrow was nothing if not methodical. He didn't rush to the casino with his credit card and start betting. He didn't tell anyone what he'd found. Instead, he did what he always did. He built a framework. He created structure. He turned intuition into strategy. First, he verified the promotion was real and active. He called Desert Star Casino, posing as a customer. "Hi, I saw something about a blackjack promotion on your website," he said, his voice casual. "Can you tell me more about it?" The customer service representative sounded bored. "Sure, the suited blackjack promotion runs through the end of May. If you get consecutive blackjacks with the same suit, you get a multiplier bonus. Pretty good odds if you're lucky. And the bonus resets when? Let me check. It says here the bonus resets after shoe clearance. So basically when the dealer shuffles." "Perfect," Luke said. "Thank you." He hung up. They were using the exact language from the contract. No one had caught the ambiguity. The promotion was live. Second, Luke created a business entity, Morrow Advisory LLC, a gaming risk consultancy, according to the paperwork, ostensibly focused on helping clients understand gambling mathematics and risk management. Completely legal. He filed the LLC paperwork, opened a business bank account, created business cards, built a simple website. If anyone asked, he was conducting research. Third, he recruited a team, small, trusted, people who understood systems and could keep their mouths shut. The first recruit was Amanda Chen, a former paralegal who'd worked with Luke at his old firm. She was 31, precise, good with numbers and records. She'd left legal work to travel and had been freelancing ever since. Luke called her. "Amanda, I have a consulting project. Good money, completely legal. Are you interested? They met for coffee. Luke explained the basics without revealing everything. A promotional loophole, expected value calculations, coordinated play across multiple locations. He needed someone to keep records, manage logistics, track results. Is this gambling? Amanda asked. It's advantage play, Luke said. We're exploiting a poorly worded contract. Everything we do will be legal. No devices, no cheating, just math and timing. Amanda stirred her coffee. How much money are we talking about? If I'm right, 7 figures, maybe more. And if you're wrong, we lose our bankroll and look foolish. But the math is solid. I've checked it 30 different ways. Amanda looked at him for a long moment. I'm in, but I keep independent records. If anything feels illegal, I walk. Deal. The second recruit was Marcus Reeves, a former casino dealer who'd worked at 3 different properties in Las Vegas before burning out and moving to Phoenix. He was 48, quiet, and he understood casino operations from the inside. The procedures, the surveillance, the patterns of pit bosses. Luke found him through a mutual acquaintance. They met at a diner outside Phoenix. Luke explained what he needed. Someone who could read dealer habits, predict shuffle timing, identify which tables had favorable conditions. You want me to help you beat the house, Marcus said. It wasn't a question. I want you to help us exploit a legal loophole in a promotional contract. No cheating, no devices, just observation and timing. Marcus laughed. You know how many people have told me they found a system? You know how many systems actually work? 0, Luke said, because they're based on superstition or bad math. This is different. This is a contractual error. I have simulations. I have documentation. I'm not asking you to believe in luck. I'm asking you to believe in probability. Marcus thought about this. He'd been dealing with back problems and living on disability payments. What's my cut? 10% of net profits. 15. 12. Deal. But I walk if we're cheating. I'm not going to prison over cards. We won't be cheating. We'll be reading. The third recruit was David Park, a coder Luke had met through a legal tech conference. David was 29, Korean-American, brilliant with algorithms and simulations. He'd built risk assessment software for insurance companies. Luke needed someone who could refine the Monte Carlo model, optimize bet sizing, and help coordinate timing across multiple plays. They met in David's apartment, which looked like a server room with a bed in the corner. I need you to help me beat a casino, Luke said. David's eyes lit up. I'm listening. Luke showed him the promotional clause, explained the edge, demonstrated the simulations. David ran his own version of the calculations and came to the same conclusion. This is real, David said. This actually works. I know. And it's legal? Completely. We're just playing by the rules as written. David nodded slowly. I want 20%. I'm doing all the computational heavy lifting. 15%. Amanda and Marcus get 12 each. I keep the rest because I found it and I'm funding the bankroll. Fine, when do we start? 2 weeks. I need to map out every casino running this promotion, understand their dealer rules, and build a rotation schedule. We hit multiple properties, never stay too long in one place, and keep everything documented as research. David pulled up a laptop. Let's start mapping. Over the next 2 weeks, the team worked in near total secrecy. They identified 7 casinos across Nevada and Arizona running the suited blackjack promotion. They researched each property's dealer rules. Hit on soft 17, split aces, double after split. Every variation affected the math. They developed strict protocols. Rotate casinos every week, limit sessions to 3 hours maximum. Cash out below $10,000 to avoid currency transaction reports when possible. Document everything as research for Morrow Advisory's risk assessment services. Luke created detailed invoices, hour logs, consulting reports. If anyone ever questioned them, the paper trail would show a legitimate consulting business conducting field research. Amanda set up encrypted communication, burner phones for the team, signal messages that auto-deleted, nothing in writing that could be subpoenaed. Marcus drilled them on casino behavior, how to tip dealers, when to take breaks, how to avoid looking like a team. You're tourists, he said. You're bored business people killing time. You're there for entertainment. You never look like you're working. David built the coordination system, a simple app that ran on their phones, disguised as a fitness tracker. It would vibrate with specific patterns to signal betting windows. One buzz meant favorable shoe, two buzzes meant hold, three meant cash out. Nothing that would look suspicious to surveillance. They tested everything at home. Mock sessions with real cards, timing drills, communication protocols. Luke insisted on perfection. This wasn't gambling. This was execution. On a Monday morning in April 2021, Luke Morrow, Amanda Chen, Marcus Reeves, and David Park flew to Las Vegas. They checked into different hotels. They didn't acknowledge each other in public. They were strangers who happened to sit at the same blackjack tables. The run was about to begin. The first casino was Desert Star, the property that had originally published the promotional language. Luke sat down at a blackjack table at 2 in the afternoon. Monday afternoons were slow. Fewer players, less surveillance attention. The dealer was a woman in her 50s named Rita, who looked tired and indifferent. "How's your day going?" Luke asked, sliding $3,000 across the felt. "Same as always," Rita said, converting his cash to chips. "You here for business?" "Consulting work. Thought I'd try my luck." "Good luck." Luke played small at first. $25 bets. Basic strategy. He was waiting. Across the casino floor, Marcus sat at a different table, watching, counting, calculating shoe composition. David was in a coffee shop with his laptop, running real-time probability updates. Amanda was in her hotel room managing the logistics, monitoring their bank accounts, keeping time logs. 40 minutes into the session, Luke's phone buzzed once in his pocket. The signal. The shoe composition was favorable. High concentration of tens and aces remaining. The promotion was active. It was time. Luke increased his bet to $500. Rita dealt. Luke got blackjack, suited, king and ace of spades. The bonus paid double. Next hand, he kept the bet at $500. Another suited blackjack, queen and ace of spades. According to the promotional language, the multiplier should increase because the bonus hadn't reset. The shoe was still live. Rita paused. She called over a pit boss, a middle-aged man named Gerald, who checked the promotional rules on a tablet. "Consecutive suited blackjacks," Gerald said. "Yeah, the multiplier increases. Pays 4-1 on this hand." Luke collected $4,000. His expression didn't change. He looked mildly pleased, like someone who'd gotten lucky. Inside, his heart was racing. It was working. The loophole was real. He played 3 more hands at $500. Lost 2, won 1. The shoe cleared. The bonus reset. Luke played small for a while longer, then cashed out up $6,000. The whole session took 90 minutes. In the hotel that night, the team met briefly in Luke's room. "It works," Luke said simply. Amanda pulled up her laptop. 6,000 gross, minus buy-in variance and expenses, we're up about 4,000 net. If we can replicate this across multiple casinos, multiple sessions, David ran calculations. Conservative estimate, playing 20 hours a week across different properties, we should clear 15 to 20,000 weekly. Scale that over 3 months, we're looking at 200,000 plus. Marcus shook his head. "You're thinking too small. The promotion runs through May. That's 6 weeks. We should be hitting this hard." "We have to be careful," Amanda said. "If they see the same faces winning big repeatedly." "We rotate," Luke said. "Different properties, different times, different buy-in amounts. We look like separate lucky players. The key is staying below their radar." Over the next 4 weeks, they executed the strategy with surgical precision. Monday at Desert Star, Wednesday at Silver Sands, Friday at the Monarch, back to Desert Star the following week, but different table, different dealer, different time of day. Luke kept his demeanor perfect. He tipped generously. He made small talk with dealers. He had a gin and tonic on the table to look relaxed. He never looked like he was counting or calculating, just a businessman playing cards. Amanda managed everything else. Spreadsheets tracking wins by property, dealer, time. Bank deposits structured to avoid reporting thresholds. Invoices generated for Morrow advisory, documenting research hours. Every dollar accounted for. Marcus fed them information. Which dealers shuffled early? Which pit bosses paid more attention? Which times had lighter surveillance staffing? He'd text them updates in coded language that looked like normal conversation. Traffic's light on the 15 today meant surveillance was understaffed. Good weather for hiking meant favorable shoe composition window. Thinking about dinner at 7 meant too much pit boss attention. Abort. David refined the algorithms constantly. He tracked actual results against predictions, adjusted the model, optimized bet sizing. The edge was holding steady, 1.4%, small but consistent, exactly as the math predicted. By the end of April, they'd cleared $200,000 in net profits. By mid-May, $480,000. The wins looked scattered across multiple players at multiple properties. Just luck. Just a good promotional period bringing in some winners. Luke felt something he hadn't felt in years. Control, mastery, the satisfying click of a puzzle solving itself. He'd been correct again, and this time it was making him rich. But there was something else too, a tension that came from living in the gap between legal and ethical. They weren't cheating. They weren't breaking any laws. But they were exploiting an error, taking money that the casino never intended to give. Was that wrong? Luke told himself it wasn't. The casinos wrote the rules. They published the contracts. If they made mistakes, that wasn't his problem. At a celebration dinner in late May, the team sat in a private room at an expensive steakhouse. They just cleared $1 million in total profits. The mood was electric. To precision, Luke said, raising his glass. To reading the fine print, Amanda added. They drank. David pulled up the latest projections on his laptop. If we push through June, we can probably get to $2 million. The promotion technically runs through the end of May, but some properties are extending it. Marcus looked uncomfortable. We're getting greedy. I've seen pit bosses watching longer at the Monarch. One guy asked me if I was part of a team. What did you say? Luke asked. I said I was just lucky, but he didn't look convinced. We should consider wrapping up, Amanda said. We've made more money than any of us expected. We've proven the concept. We should stop while we're ahead. Luke shook his head. One more month, June. We rotate properties more aggressively. We tighten our protocols. But we have an edge, and we should maximize it while we can. The math is perfect, David said. As long as the promotion language stays the same, the edge holds. It's not about the math, Marcus said quietly. It's about attention. The more we win, the more they'll look. Eventually, someone connects the dots. Then we'll be careful, Luke said. His tone had an edge now. The brittleness was showing. He'd spent his whole life being careful and having nothing. Now he was being bold and getting rich. He wasn't ready to stop. Amanda and Marcus exchanged a glance, but they didn't argue. June brought larger wins and closer calls. Luke pushed session lengths longer, testing the limits. 4 hours, 5 hours. He was sleeping poorly, running calculations in his dreams, waking up at 3 a.m. to check bank balances. The brittleness in him was showing more. He snapped at Amanda over minor record-keeping details. He overruled Marcus's caution signals twice. The money kept climbing. 600,000, 700, 800. They were approaching $1 million total. Luke had set that as his target months ago. $1 million. Generational wealth. Enough to never feel overlooked again. On a Tuesday afternoon at the Silver Sands Casino, Luke was up $30,000 in a single session when a pit boss circled his table 3 times. The pit boss was a young woman named Keisha, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and an MBA from UNLV. She wasn't like the older pit bosses who relied on instinct and experience. She was data-driven. She understood statistics. Keisha stood behind Luke and watched for 20 minutes. She didn't speak. She didn't interfere. She just watched, her tablet in hand, occasionally making notes. Luke's phone buzzed twice. Marcus's signal. Too much heat. Cash out now. But Luke didn't cash out. He was in the middle of a favorable shoe. The edge was there, clear and mathematical. 1 more hand, 2 more hands, 3 more hands. He kept playing, rationalizing each decision. The pit boss was just doing her job. If they had real suspicion, they'd confront him directly. He wasn't breaking any rules. He had every right to keep playing. On the eighth hand, after Marcus's warning, Keisha leaned over and spoke quietly to Rita, the dealer. Rita nodded without expression and began shuffling the shoe early, before it was even halfway complete. The edge vanished instantly. The favorable card composition was gone. Reset to neutral. Luke's jaw tightened. "Is there a problem?" "No problem, sir," Keisha said, her voice professionally pleasant. "Just time for a shuffle. Standard procedure." It wasn't standard procedure. It was a message. "We see you. We're watching. We can end your advantage anytime we want." Luke cashed out, his hands trembling slightly as he collected his chips. As he walked toward the cashier cage, Keisha watched him. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The surveillance cameras had captured everything. His face, his betting patterns, his reaction times. He was in the system now, tagged and tracked. That night, Marcus confronted Luke in his hotel room. The air was tense, almost electric. "You ignored my signal," Marcus said, his voice low and controlled. "I told you there was too much heat, and you stayed. You put the entire operation at risk because you wanted a few more hands." "I was executing the strategy," Luke said defensively. "The shoe composition was favorable. The math was on our side." "The math doesn't matter if you're under active surveillance," Marcus shot back. "Did you see the way that pit boss was looking at you? She wasn't just watching. She was analyzing. She's probably writing a report right now. Maybe running facial recognition. Maybe cross-referencing your sessions across multiple properties." Amanda sat on the edge of the bed, her laptop closed for once. "Marcus is right. You're compromising the operation because you're chasing a target. We've made over $800,000. That's life-changing money for all of us. We need to stop." "We're so close," Luke said, pacing the small hotel room. "Another 200,000, and we hit $1 million total. That's what we planned. That's the target." "Plans change when conditions change," Marcus said, standing up to face Luke directly. "I know what active surveillance looks like. I spent years on the other side of this. The house is watching. We're on someone's radar. Every session from here on out is rolling dice with our freedom." David, who'd been silent until now, looked up from his laptop. His screen showed probability distributions, bet optimization algorithms, projected earnings curves. "Mathematically, Marcus is right. The expected value of continuing to play is decreasing as surveillance intensity increases. At some point, the risk of getting caught and having to return all winnings exceeds the expected profit from additional sessions. We might have already crossed that point." Luke stopped pacing. He looked at each of them, his team, his partners. They were scared. They wanted to stop. And intellectually, he knew they were right. But emotionally, he wasn't ready. He'd spent so many years feeling invisible, overlooked, undervalued. This operation had made him feel exceptional, made him feel like he mattered, like his intelligence meant something. Stopping now felt like admitting defeat, like accepting that he'd never quite reached the summit he'd set for himself. "One more week," he said finally. "We hit the El Dorado, the Monarch, and maybe Desert Star one last time. Small sessions, conservative bets. We get to 900,000, and then we walk away. One more week." "Luke," Amanda said softly, "this is addiction thinking. This is how people get caught. They can't stop when they should." "It's not addiction. It's completion. We set a goal. We should finish what we started." Marcus and Amanda exchanged a long look. Finally, Marcus sighed. "1 week. But the second I feel real heat, the second a pit boss asks me a direct question, I'm done. I walk away and you never contact me again. Clear?" "Clear." They shouldn't have agreed. They should have forced the issue, packed up, and left Las Vegas that night. But greed is a quiet thing. It doesn't announce itself. It just whispers that one more time won't hurt, that the odds are still in your favor, that you deserve just a little more. Over that final week, the tension was unbearable. Every session felt like walking a tightrope. Luke played at the El Dorado on Wednesday and won $18,000, but he saw 2 different pit bosses watching him at various points. Amanda played at the Monarch on Thursday and had a floor supervisor ask her if she was enjoying her stay, a question that felt loaded with subtext. David played at Desert Star on Friday and noticed security personnel lingering nearby longer than usual. They were being watched. The pattern was forming. Somewhere in a back office, someone was connecting dots. On Saturday, June 19th, Luke made the decision that would end everything. Against Amanda's explicit objections, against Marcus's warnings, he decided to play one more session at the Silver Sands, the same casino where Keisha had shuffled early. He told himself it would look suspicious to avoid that property now. He told himself that one more control session would push them over 900,000, close enough to his target to walk away satisfied. He was lying to himself. He knew it even as he walked through the casino doors. The session started normally. Different dealer, different table, different time of day. Luke played small for the first hour, losing slightly, looking like a casual player. His phone buzzed once. Favorable shoe. He increased his bet to $700. 3 hands later, he had 2 suited blackjacks in a row. The multiplier kicked in. He collected $8,000. And then he saw her, Keisha, the pit boss from his previous visit, walking toward his table with purpose. She wasn't alone. A man in a dark suit walked beside her, older, with the bearing of senior management. "Mr. Morrow," Keisha said, stopping at his table, "could you come with us for a moment? We'd like to speak with you about your play." Luke's stomach dropped. They knew his name. They'd identified him. It was over. "Is there a problem?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "No problem," the man in the suit said. "We just have some questions about your recent sessions. We can talk in the office, or we can talk here. Your choice." Luke looked around. Other players were watching. Dealers were watching. Cameras were definitely watching. He had no choice. "Fine. The office." They led him through the casino floor, past rows of slot machines and poker tables, past the high-limit room with its chandelier lighting and leather chairs. They took him to an elevator, up to the 3rd floor, down a carpeted hallway lined with generic hotel art, into a conference room with a long table, comfortable chairs, and a computer monitor mounted on the wall. The man in the suit closed the door. On June 17th, 2021, in a surveillance room at the Desert Star Casino, a security analyst named Thomas Rodriguez was reviewing flagged transactions from the previous month. He was looking for patterns, card counting teams, chip passing, marked cards, the usual stuff. What he found was stranger. A cluster of high wins during the suited blackjack promotion. Nothing astronomical, but consistent. Different players, different times, but all following similar patterns. Large wins during mid-deck play, early cash-outs, concentrated betting during specific shoe compositions. Thomas pulled up facial recognition data from the tables. 4 players kept appearing across multiple properties. Not always together, never acknowledging each other, but present during nearly every major win period. He ran financial analysis. All 4 players had made large deposits within days of each other. All 4 had structured their cash outs to stay below reporting thresholds. Thomas flagged it for his supervisor. His supervisor called a meeting with the casino's compliance team. The compliance team contacted their legal department. The legal department called other casinos in the network. Within 3 days, 7 casinos had pooled their data. The pattern was clear. A team was exploiting something. Nobody was sure exactly how, but the correlation was undeniable. On June 23rd, a compliance officer at the Monarch Casino obtained a subpoena for Morrow Advisory LLC's bank records. The paper trail looked legitimate at first. Consulting invoices, research hours, professional services. But when they cross-referenced the withdrawal timestamps with casino surveillance logs, everything lined up. The withdrawals happened within hours of the gameplay sessions. The house was closing in. Luke didn't know any of this. He was planning one final run at the El Dorado Casino. The promotion was ending in a week. He wanted to go out big. $50,000 buy-in, aggressive betting, maximum exploitation. He was in his hotel room, reviewing notes when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Morrow, this is Detective Sarah Mills with the Nevada Gaming Control Board. I'd like to ask you some questions about your recent casino activity." Luke's throat went dry. "I'm sorry, who is this?" "The Gaming Control Board. We're investigating coordinated advantage play involving multiple properties. Your name has come up." I'd like to meet with you tomorrow at our offices. You're welcome to bring an attorney. I am an attorney. Then you understand the seriousness of this conversation. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., here's the address. She hung up. Luke sat in silence, staring at his phone. The puzzle had solved itself in a way he hadn't anticipated. The house had found the pattern. They'd seen what he thought was invisible. He called Amanda, Marcus, and David. Emergency meeting in his room. They arrived within 30 minutes, all looking pale and anxious. Luke explained the call. They know, Amanda said. They figured it out. They can't prove anything illegal, Luke said. We didn't cheat. We didn't use devices. We exploited a legal loophole. Legal doesn't mean they won't come after us, Marcus said. Civil suits, unjust enrichment. They'll argue we violated the implied terms. David was already on his laptop, wiping files. We should delete everything. Simulations, records, communications. No, Amanda said sharply. If they have a subpoena, deleting evidence makes it worse. We need to cooperate and prove everything we did was legal. Luke ran his hands through his hair. His mind was racing through case law, precedents, arguments. We used publicly available information. We followed the promotional rules as written. We have invoices showing this was research for a legitimate business. We have a defense. Do we have a defense or do you have a rationalization? Amanda asked. Be honest, Luke. What we did was ethically questionable, even if it was technically legal. Ethics and law are different things. Not always, Marcus said quietly. They sat in silence. Outside, Las Vegas glittered in the desert night, still promising wealth and dreams and escape. Inside, 4 people who'd found a seam in the system waited to see if the system would tear them apart. The next day, Luke went to the gaming control board offices alone. He wore his best suit. He brought a briefcase with copies of the promotional contracts, his simulation code, his invoices. He was prepared to argue that everything he'd done was legal exploitation of poorly written rules. The detective who interviewed him was calm and professional. She asked detailed questions. She already knew most of the answers. She showed him spreadsheets of his winnings across multiple properties. She showed him surveillance photos of his team. She laid out the pattern with clinical precision. Mr. Morrow, did you coordinate with these individuals to exploit the suited blackjack promotion? I conducted research into promotional mathematics and recruited consultants to assist with field testing. Everything was documented as business research for Morrow Advisory. Did you use any electronic devices or methods to gain an unfair advantage at the tables? No, we used publicly available information in basic probability analysis. Did you understand that the promotional language was likely an error and that casinos did not intend for players to have a positive expected value? Luke hesitated. This was the question that mattered. I understood that the language as written created an advantage. Whether that was intentional or not, I can't speak to the casino's intent. I can only speak to what the contract said. Detective Mills nodded. She closed her folder. Mr. Morrow, you're not being charged with criminal fraud at this time. However, multiple casinos are preparing civil suits against you and your business for unjust enrichment. They'll argue that you knowingly exploited an error for financial gain, violating the implied covenant of good faith in the promotional contract. Additionally, the Nevada State Bar is reviewing your conduct for potential ethics violations. I didn't break any laws. That's for the courts to decide. But I will tell you this. You read the fine print better than anyone else. Congratulations. And now you get to live with the consequences. The civil suits came fast. Desert Star Casino sued Morrow Advisory for unjust enrichment, seeking return of all winnings plus damages. 4 other casinos joined the suit. The legal fees alone would cost hundreds of thousands. Luke's professional reputation collapsed overnight. News of the case spread through legal circles. Some called him brilliant. Most called him unethical. The Nevada State Bar opened an investigation into whether he'd violated rules of professional conduct by exploiting clients of his theoretical consultancy. Within 6 months, Luke lost his license to practice law in Nevada. California followed. His name became a case study in legal ethics courses, a cautionary tale about the difference between what's legal and what's right. The team disbanded immediately. Amanda moved to Portland and cut all contact. She'd kept independent records throughout and cooperated with investigators in exchange for immunity from civil liability. She refused to speak to Luke again. Marcus returned to Phoenix and went back to dealing poker at a small card room. He told Luke once over the phone, "I knew it would end like this. The house always finds a way to win." David took the opposite approach. He wrote a detailed blog post about the mathematical exploit, published the simulation code, and framed it as a cautionary tale about poor contract drafting. He got job offers from 3 different gaming companies to help them find similar vulnerabilities before players could. He was the only one who came out ahead. Luke settled the civil suits for nearly all of the team's winnings. After legal fees and restitution, he ended up with less money than when he started. His student loans were still there. His alimony payments continued. His apartment was the same. But now his career was gone too. He published a short essay in a legal ethics journal titled Literalism in Modern Commerce. It read like a confession without contrition. He argued that lawyers have a duty to read contracts precisely, and that if drafters make mistakes, those mistakes have consequences. He never apologized. He never expressed regret. He only argued that he'd been correct. His framed law degree went into a box. His business cards were shredded. Morrow Advisory LLC was dissolved. 2 years after the operation ended, Luke got a call from a man named Richard Brennan, a compliance consultant for a major casino chain. "Mr. Morrow, I've been following your case. What you did was remarkable, ethically dubious, but technically brilliant. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in consulting work. We need someone who thinks like you do to review our promotional language and find vulnerabilities before players can." Luke thought about this. Going back to casinos, not as a player, but as the person who closed the loopholes, being paid to prevent others from doing what he'd done. "What's the pay?" he asked. "Hourly consulting rate, 6 figures annually if you're good." Luke looked around his apartment. Same stacked briefs, same takeout containers, same loneliness. But maybe something could change. Maybe being correct could finally pay. "Send me the contract," he said. "I'll read it very carefully." Luke Morrow never went to prison. The criminal investigation concluded that while his actions were ethically questionable, they didn't meet the threshold for fraud. He'd exploited a legal loophole using publicly available information. The casino's civil suits were settled quietly. The winnings were returned. Everyone moved on. Except Luke couldn't move on. Not really. He'd proven his thesis. He'd been correct. He'd found the seam in the system and pulled it until it tore. And he'd lost almost everything in the process. He took the consulting work. He reviewed promotional contracts for casino chains, finding ambiguities, flagging potential exploits, recommending clearer language. He was good at it. Companies paid him well. He was valued for his precision, his ability to see gaps that others missed. But he never felt satisfied. He'd touched something most people never experience: the thrill of being smarter than the system, the validation of turning theory into profit. And then he'd been forced to stop, forced to return to being just another consultant trading hours for dollars. He had colleagues now, but no friends. His ex-wife remarried. His son, who he barely knew, graduated college and didn't invite him to the ceremony. Luke spent evenings alone, reading contracts, finding flaws, documenting them in neat reports that someone else would use. On the anniversary of his operation's collapse, Luke sat in his apartment with a glass of whiskey, thinking about the suited blackjack promotion, about the 3-page contract, about the clause he'd circled in pencil, about the moment he'd decided to exploit what he'd found instead of reporting it. Would he do it again? If he could go back, knowing how it would end, would he still take the $1,500,000 and the brief window of feeling like he'd beaten the house? The answer, he knew, was yes, because for a few months Luke Morrow had been more than correct. He'd been exceptional. He'd solved a puzzle nobody else had seen, and that feeling, that validation, was worth more to him than his law license or his reputation or his relationships. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't a hero. He was just someone who read the fine print better than anyone else. And in the end, that made him both brilliant and completely alone. The casinos fixed the loophole overnight. Every promotional contract was rewritten. New review processes were implemented. Compliance teams added additional checks. The suited blackjack promotion was discontinued permanently. Luke's name lived on in internal casino documents as a case study. The Morrow incident became shorthand for what happens when promotional language isn't vetted carefully enough. Dozens of lawyers earned consulting fees reviewing contracts to prevent another Luke Morrow from finding another seam. And somewhere in Las Vegas, on a Tuesday afternoon, a dealer shuffles cards and deals to tourists who don't understand the mathematics, who believe in luck and hot streaks and systems that can't work. The house edge grinds on, exactly as designed, perfect and unbreakable once more. Almost unbreakable, because somewhere someone is reading the promotional language very carefully. Someone is running simulations at 3 in the morning. Someone believes they found something nobody else has seen. The puzzle never really ends. It just waits for the next person clever enough to see it and foolish enough to try.